you're going to see one side or the other. You're going to see the writings of the victor or the writings of the ones who lost. One little side point I'd like to make here from Norm. Norm's from Lynn, Massachusetts. And Lynn was the hometown of a man by the name of Alonzo Draper. And General Draper was one of the Union soldiers who led black troops during the Civil War. And he became a general. He started out as a minor officer, became a general. And he ended up being assassinated at Brazos, Santiago on September 3rd, 1865. He was hit by a stray bullet while he was out riding. And the bullet was fired by a disgruntled federal troop who didn't like serving the blacks. Just kind of one of those little sidebars there. My goal today is to sort of lay the groundwork of what had happened. The slavery question by nature was one that needed resolution, but because of the context of the times, was not going to happen overnight. Now, there's more than one reason, as Norman pointed out, of why slavery occurred. Slavery was part of the cause that drove the other causes. When the U.S. Constitution was written in 1787, a long-forgotten and peculiar provision was included in Article 1, part of the document dealing with the duties of the legislative branch. Section 9, the migration or importation of such persons as any of the states now existing shall think proper to admit, shall not be prohibited by the Congress prior to the year 1808. But a tax or duty may be imposed on such importation not exceeding $10 for each person. In other words, the government could not ban the importation of slaves for 20 years after the adoption of the Constitution, but it would settle for levying a tax on each human importer. It was a start, and it was this start that ultimately proved to be the thorn of disagreement that festered into a civil war 52 years later. As the year 1808 approached, those opposed to slavery began making plans for legislation that would outlaw the transatlantic slave trade. A senator from Vermont first introduced a bill to ban the importation of slaves in late 1805. And President Thomas Jefferson recommended the same course of action in his annual address to Congress a year later in December 1806. The law was finally passed by both houses of Congress on March 2nd, 1807, and Jefferson signed it into law on March 3rd, 1807. However, given the restriction imposed by Article 1, Section 9 of the Constitution, the law would only become effective on January 1st, 1808. From that point forward, the law was enforced. And much like our no-fly zones in modern times, the U.S. Navy established an African squadron that patrolled the west coast of Africa, interdicting and sometimes chastising ships suspected of carrying slaves. The 1807 law ending the importation of slaves did nothing to stop the buying and selling of slaves within the United States. I'm going to give you an example. Jean Lafitte was already a legend by the time Jim Bowie and his brother Reason visited the famous Buccaneer at his Galveston Island headquarters in 1818, which was outside of American territory. Lafitte had a logistics problem. How to sell the blacks that was so often part of the cargo captured on the high seas. Lafitte's proposition to the Bowie brothers was simple. James and Reason Bowie would buy Lafitte's captured slaves for $1 a pound. The average African only weighed about 140 pounds, so the initial investment would be small. There was a loophole in the law, and like the camel that stuck his nose under the tent, the Bowies knew exactly how to take advantage of it. Though it was legal in most states to own or sell slaves, the importation of them had been outlawed by the federal government. If you were arrested and convicted of possessing illegal slaves, the state would also impound your human cargo. Here is where the scam came into play. You would assume that the slaves, now out of the hands of their captors, would be free to go about their business. But no, that was not the case. The slaves were now declared contraband and could be disposed of by public auction. In addition, the person who informed on the smugglers would receive 1/2 of the monies raised at the sale as his reward. The Bowie brothers took turns ragging each other out. The law had little or no teeth, and the smugglers of human flesh would be charged with the vaguest of misdemeanors, and often forced to pay only a small fine before being released. Few dared to bid against the brothers on these occasions, and the buoys were able to regain control of their beam of cargo. Plus, they would receive half of their successful bid in return. Now that they had clear title, James and his brother could sell them Africans anywhere in the South. A healthy male slave bought in about $1,000 at the time, and soon became quite rich. The buoys made 3 trips to Galveston Island before they suffered any kind of loss. While transporting 30 slaves, the two had made camp along the trail. Both men fell asleep, and sometime during the night, the slaves vanished. Apache, Comanche, fierce Karankawa roamed the area at this time, and it was assumed the slaves had been taken by them. Eventually, the buoy would make his way on up into Texas and, of course, become one of our heroes at the Battle of the Alamo. Then there was the Missouri Compromise. In an effort to preserve the balance of power in Congress between slave and free states, the Missouri Compromise was passed in 1820, admitting Missouri as a slave state and Maine as a free state. Furthermore, with the exception of Missouri, this law prohibited slavery in the Louisiana Territory north of the 3630 latitude. Thomas Jefferson expressed his opinion on the Missouri Compromise in a letter of John Holmes dated April 22nd, 1820. Jefferson writes that the Missouri question, like a fire bell in the night, awakened and filled me with terror. I considered it at once as the death knell of the Union. In a letter to William Short from April 13, 1820, Jefferson wrote that the Missouri question aroused and filled me with alarm. I have been among the most sanguine, cheerfully optimistic, and believing that our Union would be of long duration. I now doubt it much. Controversy over slavery would continue for decades. It wasn't until 1854 that the Missouri Compromise was repealed by the Kansas-Nebraska Act. 3 years later, the Missouri Compromise was declared unconstitutional by the Supreme Court in the Dred Scott decision, which ruled that Congress did not have the authority to prohibit slavery in the territories. Controversy was not resolved until the end of the Civil War, the passage of the 13th Amendment to the Constitution. We're here today as representatives of the Cameron County Historical Commission to talk about these events, and I want to take and share that he was going to build there. Joanna Shaw's brother was Robert Shaw, and he owned Shaw Steam Lines, and they were going to put in steam lines that would compete with the Morgan lines. He had the money, he had the opportunity. If you read about those ranches, you probably read about the ranch at the southern tip of the island, which I believe was owned by Julius Pendergrast at that time. And he had bought that from John Singer just before the war started. And again, that's by a lot of cash for Singer. By an odd coincidence, John Singer died in the same spot where Pendergrast had come from, which was Florida. Pendergrast and his wife had a very thriving place. I can never pronounce it. They had a church or something under Florida. They had a very thriving hotel which was nationwide called the Alabama. And they were going to start their place here on the island. After the Union invaded the island, their lands were seized. His home was burned. He moved his operations to Brownsville, and the Union burned his house there in Brownsville too. And he died of broken neck. Any other elaborations or?
What you just have talked about is in one of your books?
Not yet.
Oh, okay.
This John Singer thing I've been working on for a long time. And the man was amazing. His brother, Isaac Singer, had 29 children by 5 different wives. And oftentimes they were all living in the same house together. And it wasn't unusual for John to have 3 different women. Their father had divorced their mother on the grounds of adultery. He was the adulterer, and she was a Quaker, and so she ended up going into retreat in northern New York. And their father traveled with a group of people who ended up being some of the first Mormons in Illinois, and then out in Nevada, Utah. Interesting men, interesting times. But that kind of wraps me up for today.